Let's get analysis on all of this with Michael Lynk. He's the former UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in the occupied Palestinian territory. Michael, it's great to have you on this news hour. What do you make of that meeting between Donald Trump and the leaders of Arab and Muslim majority countries? There's a lot of talk that happened during that meeting, but is it actually going to make any difference to Palestinians?
One might have hoped that there would be something concrete and decisive coming out of that meeting, which would signal both an end to the genocide in Gaza and some assured pathway to a Palestinian state, which is what virtually the entire diplomatic and popular opinion in the world agrees upon. But I didn't see any of that coming out from the various stories regarding the meeting. The Arab and Muslim majority countries who met with Donald Trump said that he agreed there should be no formal annexation of the West Bank, but he said nothing with respect to pushing Israel to have an immediate and final ceasefire, durable ceasefire for the genocide in Gaza. Donald Trump continues to oppose a Palestinian state. Donald Trump did not allow President Mahmoud Abbas of Palestine to travel to New York. There was nothing that I understood coming from Donald Trump that was critical of Israel's conduct of the war, and there was nothing that I heard coming back to say that there was opposition to this continued rearming of Israel. There was an announcement just last week that the United States was about to send another $6 billion worth of weaponry to Israel to allow it to continue with its onslaught in Gaza. None of this appeared to come up, or certainly was reported by the media with respect to this meeting. So I think any observer hoping for a major breakthrough with respect to Gaza and for Palestine would be disappointed.
Do you think some of those observers still believe that a two-state solution, which most countries have verbalized to say it's the only way forward, that such a solution is still viable at this stage?
I think the mathematics of a two-state solution are now pretty grim. If I can just take you through this. In 2013, John Kerry, then the U.S. Secretary of State, said to Congress as he was launching his peace process, a new peace process with Israel and Palestine, he said to Congress in 2013 that we have 18 to 24 months at the very most before the window is closed completely on a two-state solution. He was referring to the number of Israeli settlers in East Jerusalem and the West Bank. In the West Bank alone in 2013, there were 360,000 Israeli settlers. 3 years later, the United Nations Security Council passes a landmark resolution on the Israeli settlements in December 2016. It calls them flagrant violation of international law and warns that these Israeli settlements are dangerously imperiling the possibility of a Palestinian state. At that point in time, in 2016, there were already 400,000 Israeli settlers there. This past weekend, when French President Emmanuel Macron came to New York to speak, he said we're at the very last minute of the possibility of being able to salvage a Palestinian state. Today in the West Bank, there are 525,000 Israeli settlers. Whenever the West talks about a two-state solution, that is Israel's sweet spot, because it means Israel can continue to put more and more settlers, more and more settlements, more and more housing settlements, and continue to construct them, while the West, the global North, continues to say we hope for a two-state solution. I've not seen any of these global North leaders pointing to a realistic strategy of how to get there.
And isn't that the real problem here, is that there is no strategy on how to get there? Because right now, a genocide is taking place in Gaza. People there are being moved from the north to the south into a tiny portion of an already tiny enclave. What happens then to them? Because it does seem that Israel is also not interested in a two-state solution, just given everything that you've said. What then does Israel want? Do they want to just get rid of all the Palestinians and claim all that land?
The current Israeli leadership would be very happy with the ethnic cleansing, the forced displacement of most or all of the 2.2 million Palestinians living in Gaza. It's be content to annex most of the West Bank and perhaps leave the 6 or 7 large Palestinian cities going from Jenin in the north to Hebron in the south in some kind of enclosed pearl of emirates, if you like, which I've heard Israeli leaders call, and say, we can't live with people who would undermine a Jewish state and what we aspire to. This is what's on the horizon with respect to Israel and Palestine. And while I welcome the global north countries who are recognizing a Palestinian state, that's the beginning. That cannot be the end. Only when there is concrete cost on Israel for continuing to defy international opinion and international law through an end to weapons sales, to an end to free trade agreements and associational agreements with Israel. When Israel finally pays a cost for doing all this, will we even have a hope of having some kind of compassionate peace between Israelis and Palestinians where they can live in equality with each other?
Michael Lynk, it's been really fantastic speaking to you and getting your take, the former UN Special Rapporteur for Human Rights in the occupied Palestinian territory. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you for having me.